A very good morning to one and all. It's been a very long journey actually in the corporate world, and challenges and crossroads also have been many, in fact, quite a few, especially when you are working with a vision and mission to reach energy to the nook and corner of the country, upcountry locations, and all of which has always did not make commercial sense, but yet had to be done. And also, we had to remain in the select list of most profitable companies in the country. So crossroads were obvious, but there are a few business decisions that I cherish and that has writ large in my mind. And I would like to share with you because they were not merely business decisions. They had a human angle to it that where I reached out to my fellow IOCians and where I touched the lives of the society at large. And that is why they appeal to me. So it was over a decade in a frontline retail sales job in this organization of national outreach and even footsteps in neighboring countries. I was very well connected with the who's who in the state, be it the state functionaries, be it the customer base, the channel partners, the business partners, the transport agents, you name it, and I was known to them and they were known to me. So the targets were very tangible, the efforts were measurable, and the outcomes were quite predictable. And in fact, much under my control. So it was a very lovely cruising that was happening in the area of sales. Now, my job required me to go to the various supply points, which were distributed in that geographic area, especially to ensure that I get to give customer delight to my customer base by way of effective coordination with my supply point fellow colleagues, like in the supply and distribution, in the billing section, in the security, in the safety, in the filling sections, and such like. This actually worked wonders. But what I used to do is not come back from my place of visit back to my headquarters after my professional work was done. I normally used to stay put and have some casual and informal discussions with my fellow colleagues because that did wonders. And believe me, we would never ever talk absolute profession in that. So what I observed in many such casual conversations that I used to have with a very wide employee base, starting from millennials to the baby boomers, spread across locations in the geography, that most of them felt that they were not mainstream. They were not in the core of the organization. Somewhere they felt lost and left out. The common grouse was that we toil so hard in our field locations, but when it comes to performance appraisal or rewards, or for that matter, nomination to flagship programs, or getting identified for some symposiums, seminars, and training programs with overseas learning module giving global exposure, they are left out. Normally, it would be people who are in close proximity to the who's who in the organization. This had fundamentally shaken me, and I felt their despair and discontent, and that struck a chord somewhere. Now, I was wondering, as a sales guy, what is it that I could do? Because I was far removed from HR. And look, as provision would happen, or rather providence would happen, In one fine day, in a chance meeting with the HR leadership, I voiced their concern and let the leadership know how widespread is this discontent and despair of people being alienated from the mainstream, especially those who are in the front line, those who are the artillery of the organization. In about a month's time from then, I got a call and an offer of spearheading and designing a performance management system, which should be kind of end user friendly, kind of mainstreaming the entire population of the organization, which is spread out in the country. Now, that was the crossroad. I was thinking to myself that here I am so well entrenched in my assignment of sales, where the future is sure, my career progression up to certain levels are absolutely sure shot. I'm in my comfort zone. And here I'm being given an offer wherein I will be treading in an unsure territory. It had all the VUCA elements. First of all, my success would depend singularly on this project success. Secondly, I had no HR background. In a small conversation with some of the HR consulting firms, I realized that I was not up to date with the HR jargons. I was not absolutely able to gauge the expectation of the management and the aspiration of the people at large, perhaps. So from the pen and paper legacy of confidential reports, which was so well entrenched in our system and culture, a complete transition to a transparent, robust, continuous feedback system, and then onboarding of the employees, getting their viewpoints in every stage of appraisal would be a colossal task. But then I got reminded of the Mahatma Gandhiji's talisman, that be the change you want to see in this world. I know it was a tough decision, and I was kind of meandering into an area of labyrinthine where the outcome was unsure. But somewhere, as I said a while ago, I decided that this is something where perhaps I can have an assignment where I will be able to redress, address, and alleviate the aspiration of the people, my colleagues, my peers, my subordinates, my seniors at large. What a wonderful opportunity. Had I continued in the sales, I would have had surmounted many more geographies. I would have added volumes. That would have given me professional business satisfaction. I'm not for a minute demeaning it. But here is I saw an opportunity not only to implement a business decision, but also to ameliorate the angst of the people at large. So it had the human angle. It had touching of lives, deeply seated in the business decision as well. So I went about in consultation with the HR firms, consulting firms of international repute, to slowly and steadily get a performance management system with also soft skills as an integral part of it, getting evaluated, looking at the competencies of each individual and getting them identified for capability building programs, and also selection, broad-based selection happening for the training programs which had the overseas learning modules and global exposure. What a cultural change it brought in due course of time. So people started associating with the system, and the system got well entrenched. And this was something that gave me so much satisfaction that by way of one intervention, which is even slightly foreign to you, in that I didn't have a professional HR background, but because of the immense experience that I had by way of inputs, by way of having dealt at various levels, I was able to address the aspirations through this system, which now has got more than a decade entrenched in the organization and is helping in nominations, for seminars, for various learning programs, for capability building programs, for differentiated pay, for bonuses, and such like HR processes. As I said, crossroads are many. So of recent happening was the one in which there were a lot of natural calamities. I'm sure you will recall the Newar, the Brevi, the Kerala floods, and myself being the head of the region in the south, I had to take this tough decision of adhering to the set supply plan, or think out of box and also arrange for supplies of fuel and gas from atypical locations, supply points. Because what I felt was already these natural calamities had cut off the electricity, some water and roads were cut off, the general necessities, essentials were cut off. So if I add to the O's by not getting the LPG there or getting the petroleum products there, that would actually shut off their kitchen as well. I think there cannot be anything more inhuman than that. Now, all that required me to bring in more financial outgo. And it did not really make astute commercial sense. But as I said in the very beginning, we have to see that business is essential for life, but unless there is purpose, meaning, and touching of lives, you cannot bring life to business. So what I did was I went beyond the established supply plan and ensured that these essentials were made available to the society at large. It did require some additional financial outgo, which I thought would attract some criticism from the seniors in the board level. But to my utter surprise, when this was explained, I got a standing ovation and I had goosebumps. Now, this is how I felt that this is one crossroad where the easier route would have been to put in the excuse to the government, to put in the excuse to the leadership that while no other essential services are reaching, ours also cannot. But thinking differently, doing differently, and having a purpose and mission, when in your mind and soul is there, then there is a providence, there is a overall goodness in the ecosystem that will side with you. And that is what exactly my message to all of you is, that yes, we are all here to do business for life, but please see that we put life before business. And mind you, by doing so, you will not remain less profitable. On the contrary, you will feel and realize that in the long return on investment, you will create so much goodwill that business will come on its own. I think these are the two instances that come very prominently in my mind. And I thought this is something I need to share with you. So one was an instance of reaching out to my fellow IOCians. And the next one is the one where I reached out to the society at large. What a golden opportunity from my seat of profession. Thank you.